To kick us off, my name is Marlon Chamberlain, founder and executive director of the Illinois Coalition to End Permanent Punishments. We are an organization led by all directly impacted people, really committed to what we would say leadership development, but also community organizing. The work that we do, has anybody here ever heard of collateral consequences? Has anybody ever here heard of permanent punishments? Okay, why do you think we decided to call the laws permanent punishments and not collateral consequences? Anybody?
Hey, everybody. I believe that you all decided to call it permanent punishment instead of collateral damages is because a lot of times people who have come out from being system impacted and they've done their time and they still have to deal with these barriers like housing, education, and employment. So I feel like, right along with Martin said, if you've done your time, you shouldn't have to keep on facing these barriers where you should be able to, thrive and get ahead. And these are the reasons why you call it permanent punishment, because it feels like you're permanently being punished when you're trying to rehabilitate yourself and do the right thing.
Thank you. Could everybody hear her? This side, I'm sorry, I know you all just came in. They cut our time short, so we have until about 2:30. My name is Marlon Chamberlain, founder and executive director of the Illinois Coalition to End Permanent Punishments. The question was, can you tell us what is the difference between collateral consequences and permanent punishment? Somebody from this side. Anybody? Go ahead.
That was not an easy question. Collateral consequences, by definition, it's like I mistakenly hurt you. Permanent is like I'm just going to punish you forever, which is essentially what the United States has decided for black folks since day one. It was always going to be permanent punishment. I don't believe there's collateral consequences when it comes to black and.
Absolutely. So what I want to say to you all is that the reason why we decided to call them permanent punishments and not collateral consequences is because collateral suggests that these laws were accidental, as if they just appeared in the books. And that is not the case. These laws were intentionally drafted to target people with arrested conviction records. And I want to take it a step further because we've done a research project where we scrubbed every statute in code in Illinois that we now have cataloged. And some of the examples of some of these laws is we can't own a falconry bird. You can't own a bird. If you have a felony conviction on your background, you cannot own a bird, a certain type of bird. We cannot be on the premises of a bingo game. We could be arrested or asked to leave if we are on the premises of a bingo game. But there are over 1,000 laws in Illinois that are permanently bans for people with arrested conviction records. And so just to connect this session with why we're here and the guaranteed of non-repetition, what we're saying is that once you've completed your term of incarceration, probation, parole, you should be free. Yeah. That is what we're saying. Now, as Maurice mentioned, we did recently just sign into law the Clean Slate Act, which will automatically seal individuals' records that are eligible. As of June 1st, the law goes into effect, but there's some implementation things that need to be done to create the system for them to identify eligible records that will be automatically sealed. So far, what we know, 2.2 million people will be impacted by this legislation, meaning they won't have to lift a finger and their records can be sealed. But I want to bring it back and connect the dots to this session because technically we shouldn't need a clean slate. We shouldn't need a coalition to end permanent punishments because if you served your time, why are you still being held or suffering consequences if you've already completed your time? And so this session is about really what do we want? It's not for us to gripe about how these laws are preventing us from moving forward. This session is about what do we want to create in its place? So the question that I have for this group says, what alternatives can effectively prevent crime and promote healing? What are alternatives that can help us effectively prevent crime and also promote healing? And this is open to the group for discussion. Because this is about us creating what we want, not talking about the problem. But imagine a world where there are no more permanent punishment laws. What would this world look like for us?
I think, it started off with a simple conversation with me. I think respect.
You say,
Respect. If we respect each other, we're going to move forward. 100%. No disrespect. It's respect to me. That's all I got for y'all, but it's respect for me. And we get respect, we get respect.
appreciate that. We got respect. I also want to push us a little harder to think about systems, to think about what can we replace bad policy, what type of policy or system can we replace that no longer says no, but it says yes. Because if an individual wants to go back to school and become a doctor or a lawyer, why is a statute or a law telling them they can't? As if those two things are easy to do. If you want to go back to school and become a doctor and go back to school and make that sacrifice and exercise the discipline to do so, why are we telling you no?
So in Mississippi, we're looking at several things. One of them is like land ownership, cooperatives, how we can grow our own fruits and vegetables, and then have our injustice involve folks farm the land, have animals on the land, and then we're all part of it. Then we're also looking at, I don't know if y'all have heard of the Barber of Little Rock, who started like a community, almost like a credit union, but it's not a credit union because he gives grants to folks that we don't get loans, like we don't get loans, but he gives them out to people, and it offers opportunities to our people that don't normally get loans, whether that's business loans, opportunities to buy houses and things like that. So really looking into ways that we can support each other through food access, opportunities for loans and housing and things like that.
And I want to just add this real quick, and then I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna go over there. I want to add this. So imagine it like this. Like this is how I would define our work. We are fighting to restore, in some cases, our ability to choose where we want to work. We're also fighting to restore our ability to choose where we want to live. And I say us because I spent 10 years in federal prison. I've been home now about 15 years. But we are fighting to restore our ability to access to funding or health care. And in some cases, we're protecting those rights because as we see, our rights can be rolled back in a second. And so this is about thinking about if there was a world where we didn't have to fight to live or to choose or the right to live where we want to live, we have the rights now. So what does this world look like now that we have the right to choose where we want to live? How are we going to support people when things happen? Or if somebody transitions from prison, what is the system that we're going to create to support them?
I always say you have to first know your own self-worth, because somebody can tell you who you think you are, what you should do, but if you don't know that you are already worthy, then you're not going to figure it out. But I think we should build in our own stuff like apprenticeship programs. So if you're a doctor or you're a lawyer and those certain things, take one and teach one. Take somebody else and help them. Find out what those gifts are. I might have the gift to gab, so how can I help somebody out? Maybe I could be a motivational speaker. I think we need to look at ourselves, see what gifts we have. How can we use that into our community to share with each other? Build our community, build each other, see who's in your community, and build our own community far as like our Black Wall Street.
Like that. Anybody else?
I don't know, once again, and I don't have the solution, but I do know when I imagine how Chicago or the world could look like, I always think of economic fairness, that everybody should be able to make a fair living wage, escalate it, from what it is now, but to be able to support yourselves. I think that economic fairness takes us to a whole different stratosphere. Just like I said about being the affordable house, you know, if those systems could get in place, I think a lot of more would thrive. And that's what I believe.
Anybody else?
Good afternoon. I really like the idea of mentorship at a neighborhood, community, and then large organization. I do a lot of volunteer work for an organization, Mercy Homes, for girls. For whatever reason, these young girls starting at 5th and 6th grade are taken out of their home and they're put in a community living space. And the key to that community living space is that it's funded by the Catholic, the Archdiocese. So we have got to learn to mentor and find mentorship from organizations that have dinero, that have money, and that can help us. Because like you, without the economic base, and so Mercy educates these girls, not just them, they bring in counseling for them and their whole family. And they take them, they ask the community to volunteer on a nightly basis to help these young women with their homework help, with whatever help they need. So that whole, someone said, teach one if you trades, but we have more in our communities, in our organizations, in the spaces we live, that we can help. If you live in a strong Hyde Park or whatever, strong economic organization, what about mentoring other communities? Let's adopt that whole, let's adopt a neighborhood within a neighborhood type thing.
Yeah. And I want to say something real quick. I got you. I want to say something about mentorship. My mentor in prison used to say, a smart man learns from his own mistakes, a wise man learns from the mistakes of others, and a fool learns from neither. And so when I think about mentorship, having that systematized to where people automatically could have somebody that's willing to share that wisdom in terms of helping them grow as a leader. And then the second thing before I come here, I was recently at a convening where they kept saying this throughout the convening to where it started to really land with me. And what they kept saying was, as you sit here and you're listening, think about why are you here and what is your assignment? Because this was an invitation. This was not just you come out on a Saturday afternoon to come show up to an event and that's it. What we're describing, we really want to build. So this was an invite to you, for you to be a part of something that's bigger than all of us.
What's up, how y'all doing? Hey, so my thing is, in order to find a solution, you gotta truly understand the problem. So I'm real big on having an accurate understanding of things, and so part of that, a lot of the crime that's committed, it's crime everywhere, right? It's always gonna be crime. It's always gonna be people that don't get along with each other. But in our community specifically, the crime that's targeted, a lot of those crimes are crimes of poverty. So the impoverished conditions, they create a lot of situations where people got to do what they got to do to live, right? And then those situations kind of create other situations that might lead to violence or, things of that nature, right? And so understanding the conditions that create those situations is key, because once we understand where those conditions came from, then we can find ways to resolve that issue. And you can never solve a problem unless you know the whole equation. You know what I'm saying? From front to back. So yeah, so that's my thing, the accurate understanding, the knowledge.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hey, thank you. I just wanted to build off of the last commenter because I think that like having the complete picture is important. And coupled with that, I think that intentionally trying to build spaces where community members can build social trust, I think is a big part of this. With like, for instance, with the city's youth plans for the summer, they're talking about kickbacks. And while I think that that's Oh, sorry. Like, the city is planning for youth kickbacks this summer, and I think that things like that could be a good idea, although, like, I think that's something that comes more organically from the community rather than from the mayor's office would work better in terms of building that kind of social trust and social cohesion, which can create the space to de-escalate situations, you know, whether they come from poverty or the secondary or tertiary effects, which can come from scarcity and other things, because it's never just scarcity, which is what the organizing class in these devil nonprofits like to talk about. It's scarcity plus risk plus uncertainty, which drive the violence. And those are the things which these nonprofits and the organizing class don't want to discuss. They don't care about us.
He had a question.
Yeah, I also want to respond to that brother said. Sometimes actually the poverty create the risks that people get involved in crime. So if we don't end the poverty, then we can't solve eliminate the root cause of crime. And I see in a couple of weeks ago, I was just right by the alderman's office, like 16th Ward. And then I just met a brother who just came out of prison, and he was on the street doing something that he's not supposed to do. But the thing is, there's no system in place that help him transition from prison to the community. You know, I think that we should demand the alderman to have a program in place that actually know who's out of the prison and provide the housing, provide some kind of a paid volunteerism. So it's hard to go to a job and get paid. But as the brother going through that kind of mental rehabilitation, by doing something community service, he need to pay for his time. If he can be paid, then that will eliminate the risk that he need to make a living to support his family. I think the city, the alderman office should take the tap, not just rely on the nonprofits, because they have the resources. And it should be a priority for the city.
And the state.
Hello, my name is Patricia Charles. My son just got out of jail, and because he's on 2-month house arrest, he can't get no house. And then when he came home, he went to his cousin's house, and he is in the buildings at foreclosure. They're trying to put him out. So why would the people that the parole officers taking them and see people living on the hallway and everything? They never said, "Oh, you can't live." So now he can't do nothing until he can get off the house arrest, get in the program. And it's not good for nobody if they get out of jail and do their time. They don't have nowhere to go. If you give me that option to stay in there, you see it's bad. But if I'm coming, I don't know that this is your situation. You allow me to come, but you say, I'm gonna get put out. You know what I'm saying? They close the building now. But I think we need to be there for them to help them to do whatever they got to do. The community and everything, you know. It's not their fault that they was in there, but if we don't help each other, what can we do?
I just want to remind us, I'm coming this way for the question. I just want to remind us that in this world, in this space that we sort of created, that poverty no longer exists. And so what are the systems that we want to replace with where poverty used to live? So again, this is about what do we want? We know the problems, but this is about what do we want to put in place to help people now that poverty no longer exists, all of these permanent punishment laws no longer exist. What do we want the world to look like?
Yeah, I just wanted to speak to the poverty question and say totally, we can't re-enter back into disinvested communities. So just to say, universal health care, universal behavioral health care, guaranteed housing, guaranteed income, all that. And the communities that are benefiting from those things should be the ones who are providing them and building them. And I just want to say one thing, which is, I think the cannabis revenue is a great idea, but we should also just tax the rich. I mean, we are in a time of the greatest inequality this country has seen in a century, and it's time that the rich and the corporations be paying their fair share. So tax the rich.
I got you.
Do I have to really stand up?
You are.
Okay. Well, what I really love about the guarantee of non-repetition is that we're supposed to stop the repetition not only of the harm, the impact of the harm, but the harm itself. So when I think about slavery, I mean, one, basic, eliminate slavery within our prisons. And so, you know, the states that have the 13th Amendment, Illinois needs to have a new 13th Amendment eliminating slavery. And ending the slavery, ending the enslavement of people who are incarcerated actually is also what would destroy the incarceral system because it is dependent on slavery. It can't function without it. So I think about cause and effect in both of those cases. Also, I was saying if you eliminate slavery within prisons, you eliminate prisons. They can't function without it. In addition, they cannot function without all of the resources family members dump into. I know I'm still paying loans that I took out when I was supporting my sister's children when she was behind bars, and that is happening with predominantly a lot of Black women. And so tax relief, if we are still going to have prisons, we should not in this scenario, but there can be immediate tax relief. That actually tax relief for all Black people is one way to be able to move us towards actually an increase in the GNP, and then also free education for all up from what do they say? From preschool to PhD would make a very significant difference relating to it. And then within our court systems, an inquisitory system of justice is what would prevent this plea system that is just pushing people through. If we're looking at a restorative practice system, it's going to be looking at what is the harm and not necessarily focused on who the harm doer is. And so I think in the case of reparations, it's much more important to identify the victim than it is the offender at any given time. Reparations within our justice system would not be dependent on a prosecution of anyone.
Did I miss somebody? Did you? Let me go here, then I got you.
You know, I think you're asking us to dream out the box. And so this is far-fetched. But what about host families? You know, these people come out and have no home, no place to go. What if we had a system that the government supported a family to take in someone, and that family helps provide that positivism, that family that was lost, you know, and food, clothing, shelter, to start basic needs, you know, that people need, and then can help them get on the path. I know a lot of government. I had a young adult in my family went to Africa, to the Peace Corps. First thing they do is they give you a host family, and that family takes care of you. They feed you, they teach you the culture, they help you stay safe to navigate tomorrow. So, just a vision.
I got it. You go bring me. Then I got a transition.
My sister, you just reminded me of something. I'm glad you brought up taxes, because this is something that I haven't heard anybody mention. I haven't heard this since the first time I read Final Call. I'm not a Muslim, don't let the bow tie fool you. But one thing the Muslims did say is that Black people, as part of reparations, we should have tax-free status, tax-exempt status. Another thing that I thought of very recently that should be added to reparations is, as Black people in this country, we don't necessarily know where our lineage comes from, and that stuff costs money. I remember it used to cost a whole lot of money back in the day. It costs less money now, but it still costs money. The ability for us to trace our lineage and see which tribes we come from should be something that is paid for by the government once we get reparations as well. That's just something I wanted to say because you reminded me of that. So yeah, here go the mic.
You asked us to imagine a radical new system, right? I think the biggest imagination we got to have is a system where racism no longer exists. That is the foundation of this country, of all these inequalities. The permanent punishment, you said, is racism. And so I think we have to be thinking about, what does a world look like, a multiracial world where black folks are not at the bottom, but we can't just change it slightly where brown people then take our place or somebody else takes our place. What does it look like? I think we have to imagine a system where racism as a system is eliminated, because that's the only way all these great ideas are going to succeed for any real length of time. So I invite people to that imagination.
I'm going to go Harry and Calvin, we got to transition.
So the world that I see is from this end. To continue to create or build out the tables, the power structures, to sustain the visions that we have for the future. That means uniting our people as one, and that we can still contain or maintain what we've gotten. Because it's easy to forget and then we lose it. But if we create a power structure that will uphold everything that we've gotten, then there will be no racism because we run the tables. And that's my second thing. We have to be at every table, because when they talk about us, we should be there to answer for us.
Thank you. I've been waiting on somebody to say it, so I'm gonna stand up here and say it. We got two big systems that we've been fighting against for a very long time. It's the criminal justice system and it's the DCFS system. And what I said, we want to live in a perfect world is keeping our families together. It starts at home first. And you cannot say a person is a bad parent because they don't have the resources and the help that they need. If we lived in a perfect world, then the parents would get the help that they need. Thank you.
Yeah. Last one.
I just wanted to say I have found out something, that we are like one of the only countries that don't have rights for children. So we definitely need to add children to the Constitution. And every single time the U.S. has gone to the United Nations meetings, they've refused to accept the rights for children. So that is a trickle-down effect to why we keep having these issues with childcare and stuff like that. Because you think you got a community, you got a unit, you got stuff going, and then it's like a breakdown again because the children are changing or being moved this way and that way, and there's no structure for building for the children. So we would definitely need rights for children.
So in our last 10 minutes, I want to ask this question. What is policy? And this is anybody. What is policy? We are. She said we are. What is policy? Nobody knows what policy is? Who said that? It's the laws. Okay, they do what? What do they do?
It's the laws that keep things in process. Like something happens, policy dictates what the results will be legally.
So for the sake of this room, policy is a set of rules, practices, or laws that determines who has access and opportunities and who doesn't. Right now in Springfield, there are 2 days left, and we're waiting on the budget to be dropped that will determine where resources are allocated. Who sets policy or who governs it?
Legislature and the Senate.
Somebody said the governor. Who else? Our representatives.
Legislative and the Senate.
Okay, who creates policy? Is it their responsibility to create policy? The who?
Advocates.
The advocates. So, there are no wrong answers because policy is governed on different levels. There's federal, there's state, there's local, but then there's also agencies that govern and implement policy. The way and the purpose of this PMA is that what we're trying to introduce to you all is that we can have a role and a voice in policy that shapes and changes our communities. I've seen it millions of times with this young lady right here, with Callie. I've seen how when everyday regular folk come together and decide that they want something different, that we can create it. So some of the tools that we use to generate policy come from doing sessions like this, or us doing one-on-ones out in the community to learn what are some of the challenges that our communities are facing. We use surveys, we do house meetings, town hall meetings, and once, I think going back to what Carl said, once we identify a problem, then we take that and we break it down into an issue. Why do you think we break down problems into issues versus trying to address the problem? And an example of a problem that I would give, somebody named racism. How can we address racism? Anybody? As a whole, if we wanted to address racism as a whole, what does that look like? So, huh? Well, you are right, but what I would tell you is from a strategy perspective, the way we address racism is by cutting an issue that may address something that deals with racism, but on a local level. Like right now, we're running a bill called Home for Good that would create permanent housing for people with arrest and conviction records. That is an example. Are we addressing homelessness overall? No. But we cut an issue towards a specific community that can help that particular community. And so if you don't take nothing else from this exercise, just know that the person sitting next to you is a partner, and we are all a part of a community that can shape the conditions that we're currently dealing with. Because I am also a true believer that there is no child that was born bad. When I was a kid, my destiny or my dream was not to go to prison. But the conditions I grew up in shaped my choices. Now, I'm not standing before you all like not taking any responsibility for the choices I made. I take responsibility for those choices. But the conditions also played a part in why I made the choices I made. So please get involved, signed up. This work is not stopping just today. This is the beginning of us building something that includes community. I'm finished. I think I'm on time.